Hello and welcome to my laboratory. My name is Soluzia and I was asked by a few friends how I do my scrap metal desert garbage planet bases for my Chaos Space Marines. So I'm going to show you exactly how I do my bases, what materials I use, how I put everything together so it looks nice, and how I paint it. Okay, so for this we will need basing glue. You can use any tacky glue for this really, because the stuff that Army Painter, for example, bottles is just regular basing glue. You will need sand, which coarseness doesn't matter. You can take any. I also used milliput, which is very useful, but you can also use green stuff or any other brand of putty that you want. It just has to harden well and give you a nice surface to work with. And skulls, I use Citadel skulls, but I'm sure there are other printers or stuff that can provide you with skulls. And bits. Most of you will probably have spare bits from any kits you might have. I'm mainly using for this bits from my Guardsman box that I bought a few years ago. I tried doing a Traitor Guardsman army, but didn't really go that well, so now the sprues for the Traitor Guardsman stuff are nothing more than scrap for me to use in builds like these. Besides that, you will also need cork bark or cork board. I'm using cork board because it's easier to use for this build, and also super glue to get everything to stick together really well. You get more texture out of cork bark, which is very nice for larger models. So I'm going to show you a picture of what I do with cork bark, but for smaller builds like the one I'm showing you, the smaller pieces really work well that you get out of cork board. And really, you shouldn't be buying too much of these little cork scraps that Army Painter sells, for example, because you will have enough scrap to last you a while when you order like a $10 set of these cork board pieces that you get on Amazon. The last thing you will need is grass tufts. I'm using the ones from Army Painter that are desert yellow and red, but you can do these that fit your style of base best. Other than that, we are going to use a Chaos Space Marine for our model, which is one that has already been a little bit customized to fit the style of my custom warband, but more on him later. He stands on a 32mm base, which is what we are going to design today. And I would say let's get started. To start off, I am taking a chunk of corkboard and tearing it into smaller pieces and bits that I can use to get some dimension and some higher terrain on the base, and tear it into a chunk that sits comfortably on the base that I'm already having. Once that's done, I'm taking my Chaos Space Marine and try to put him onto the base and onto the corkboard, because I have realized that as long as I don't want to hate myself over pinning every single model that I do, I usually already work in a way that I have a proper flat surface for the feet to stick onto once I'm done with my base. Once I have corkboard chunks that I like, I take my hobby knife and drag it across the edges in order to cut off any excess that I don't want, and in order to get a more smooth and nice surface to work with that looks more natural once the entire model is done. Afterwards, I'm gluing down the cork bark, which I use super glue with. Be sure to be quick with this, because corkboard especially quickly absorbs liquids. And once I am done with this step, I take milliput. Milliput is a great material to get yourself a nice smooth standing surface. I'm mostly building up a bit more terrain with it. I use it to press the feet of my model into the milliput in order to get a nice surface where I can glue the model down. Afterwards, I'm coming in with my hobby tool to smoothen out a few surfaces and give everything a more smooth feel to it. just to use a piece of cork bark that I've ripped off earlier and then lightly tap it onto the material in order to get the texture from the cork bark onto the milliput to tie everything together. First off, I am going to add another bit of cork board to my base to give a little bit more texture and a little bit more stone. Afterwards, I start to glue it in place because you really don't want to have this just sticking somewhere. The next step is that I take a few citadel skulls from my citadel kit, which I bought for 20 bucks or something like that. Here I'm using 3 skulls, but you can use as many as you like for your base. I'm also adding a piece from a different set that I used, as well as a little bit of cable and some debris from other sets, which I then glue into place on the base. The different bits for this can be adjusted to your liking as you want them to sit on the base. When I apply my skulls to areas like the milliput, I press them into place. I often also use my pliers to fix them into place even more, so that they sit into the ground comfortably. So now that I am finished with my base, I can actually start doing the more finer work. I have added the skulls, so what I'm doing now is I take some PVA glue and put it in the areas that are not covered by anything, like the skulls and the rest of the base that is exposed. I just dip the glue onto there so that in the next step, when I'm taking my sand, the sand sticks to all of these areas and fills in the gaps. I'm using special basing sand here, but you can practically use any sand that you want. Bird sand for pets works. You can also just steal from your local playground if you really want to. Once I have dipped this into the sand, I'm just wiping off some excess with one of my fingers. Once that is done, I am going to let this dry until the sand is completely locked onto the base. And after that, I am basing the entire thing with a black and white primer. Afterwards, I paint it in contrast paint and metallics. I haven't recorded this, but I'm also dry brushing it with a sand and rust color. And then I slap some grass tufts on it and everything is finished. I think it looks really nice. Thank you for watching this video. This has been pretty experimental for me, so I'm happy that you watched. Until next time, and happy painting!
Fick dich.